If you're listening right now, I want you to pay close attention because what I'm about to say might be the one message that shifts the entire direction of your life. Most people move through the world half awake, reacting instead of choosing, doubting instead of acting, settling instead of rising. They wait for motivation, for clarity, for someone else to validate their worth, never realizing that the moment they stop waiting is the moment everything begins to change. And I'm telling you this at the very start for a reason. You are far closer to your breakthrough than you think, but you've been sabotaging it with your own hesitation. Not because you're weak, not because you're incapable, but because no one ever taught you how powerful you actually are when you decide to stop negotiating with your excuses. As you keep listening, you will hear truths that may challenge you, confront you, even make you uncomfortable. But discomfort is a sign that something inside you is waking up, something that refuses to accept the version of yourself that plays small. There is a stronger, sharper, more disciplined you buried beneath layers of fear, distraction, and emotional noise. And today, you're going to meet that version. Stay with me till the end, because every second of what comes next is designed to shift your mindset, reshape your confidence, and reconnect you to the part of you that life tried to dim. This isn't just motivation. This is a mirror. And by the time we reach the final line, I want you to see yourself clearly, without the excuses, without the doubt, without the limitations. So take a breath, lock in, and don't look away. Your transformation starts right now. When people talk about attraction between younger women and older men, they almost always get it wrong. They look at the surface, the age difference, the material stability, the life experience, and they assume that must be the reason. But those are just the shadows on the wall. The real truth lies much deeper. Younger women are not responding to his age. They are responding to the psychological foundation that age usually produces: emotional discipline. And let me be clear, this has nothing to do with being quiet, being emotionless, or being rigid. This is not about suppressing emotions, it's about mastering them. There is a difference between a man who reacts and a man who responds. A difference between a man who falls apart under pressure and a man who stands still until the storm passes. Younger women sense that difference instantly, even if they can't articulate it. They feel it in his tone, his posture, his eyes, and even in the silence between his words. Emotional discipline is not loud, it is not performative. It does not announce itself. It's an inner stability that radiates outward, creating a feeling of safety. And safety, the emotional kind, not physical, not financial, is one of the strongest forms of attraction a woman can experience. Because in a world full of chaos, overstimulation, mental exhaustion, and emotional unpredictability, a calm man becomes a rare form of peace. Picture this. A younger woman gets into a disagreement with a man her age. He immediately takes it personally. He raises his voice. His ego steps forward. He becomes defensive. He shuts down or pushes aggression. He wants to win the argument. He wants to prove a point. He collapses under the emotional discomfort because he has never learned how to sit inside tension without letting it control him. Now imagine the older man she encounters. The same disagreement happens, same words, same tone, but his reaction is entirely different. He listens. He doesn't rush to defend himself. He doesn't take it as an attack on his identity. He pauses, not because he is confused, but because he is choosing clarity over chaos. His silence is not weakness, it is control. He responds only when he fully understands the situation. His words carry weight because they're not driven by fear or insecurity. And when he speaks, his tone is rooted, calm, grounded. A younger woman feels that difference in her nervous system. She feels her own emotional energy softening around him. Her mind relaxes, her heart opens, and suddenly she feels seen, not judged. This is emotional discipline. This is what younger women are drawn to, not the age, but the maturity that age tends to bring. A man with emotional discipline is not controlled by impulsive desires. He does not chase attention. He does not seek validation through chaos. He has learned that true power is not in reacting, but in choosing, and choosing requires discipline. When a woman experiences a man like this, she doesn't feel like she has to protect herself from him. She feels like she can be fully herself without worrying he will crumble, explode, or disappear. She feels emotionally safe, and emotional safety is the strongest seduction. This kind of man becomes attractive not because he tries to be, but because he naturally embodies the qualities most women deeply crave. Society teaches men to look strong instead of being strong, to act confident instead of developing confidence, to pretend they don't care instead of learning how to care properly. Younger men perform masculinity, older disciplined men live it. This difference shows up in the smallest things, in the way he speaks, in the way he pauses, in the way he carries his losses without complaining and his wins without bragging. He doesn't prove himself through noise. He proves himself through consistency, and consistency is a rare luxury in today's distracted world. Emotional discipline also means he knows how to control what controls most men, their reactions. He knows how to handle jealousy without becoming possessive. He knows how to navigate disagreements without attacking. He knows how to remain calm even when she is emotional. He doesn't absorb her mood, he anchors it. He doesn't amplify the tension, he dissolves it. He becomes the emotional thermostat in the room, not the thermometer. Younger women respect that. They admire that. They feel safe enough to lean into that. And they choose that over the emotional instability they've often experienced before. The older man isn't perfect. He's simply learned what most younger men haven't: how to manage himself. He's lived enough life to realize the power of patience, the value of silence, and the strength in staying calm. He has faced enough heartbreak, failure, stress, and challenge to understand that losing control only makes everything worse. So he stopped letting his emotions lead him and started leading himself. This is why younger women gravitate toward this kind of man, because his presence calms her chaos, his stability softens her stress. His discipline makes her feel safe. She senses that his emotions do not overpower him, and therefore he will not overpower her. A man who has conquered his inner world becomes a man who can be trusted in the outer one. And trust is the foundation of attraction. When a woman trusts a man emotionally, she opens her heart. She becomes more feminine, more expressive, more vulnerable, in the best way. And he doesn't take advantage of that. He honors it. He handles her emotions with maturity, not manipulation. He becomes the emotional strength she didn't know she needed. That is the deeper truth most people refuse to understand. Younger women don't choose older men because they are older. They choose them because emotional discipline is rare, and rare things are valuable. When a man masters himself, he becomes a magnet. Not for a specific age group, but for anyone seeking depth, safety, and emotional intelligence. And the man who understands this, truly understands it, never has to chase anything again. Because emotional discipline doesn't shout, it speaks softly, and everything listens. Become the man whose silence carries more strength than another man's anger. When we talk about why certain older men get chosen more by younger women, people often jump to the simplest explanation: life experience. But it's not the experience itself, it's what the experience creates inside the man. It's the sense of direction, the clarity of purpose, the calm certainty that radiates from him without effort. And certainty is magnetic. It's the kind of magnetism you cannot fake, cannot perform, cannot imitate. It comes from within, from a man who has spent years confronting himself instead of running from himself. Younger women respond to that certainty in ways they often don't even consciously understand. They feel it through his presence, through the decisions he makes, through the way he carries himself. He doesn't walk into a room trying to be seen. He walks in already knowing who he is. That kind of energy is irresistible because it speaks to something foundational in human psychology. We are drawn to people who know where they are going. We trust people who move with intention. We respect people who act with clarity. Most younger men are still figuring out who they are. They are searching, experimenting, questioning, trying to fit into an identity rather than building one. There is nothing wrong with that. Everyone goes through that phase. But for a younger woman, it can feel emotionally exhausting to deal with someone who is still battling internal chaos. She doesn't want to become a man's direction. She wants a man who already has one. She doesn't want to be his purpose. She wants to walk beside someone who already found his path. The older man with purpose is different. He wakes up every morning with intention. He knows what his time is worth. He knows who he wants to be. He has built himself slowly, intentionally, piece by piece. His confidence isn't loud, it's lived. It comes from years of being humbled, failing, rebuilding, learning, and sharpening himself. Purpose does not create arrogance. It creates quiet certainty. And certainty is powerful because it makes a woman feel safe. Emotional safety is one thing, directional safety is another. When a woman senses that a man knows where he is going, financially, emotionally, spiritually, she feels she can relax into her feminine. She doesn't feel the need to lead him, fix him, guide him, or push him. She simply aligns with his energy. A man with purpose is not distracted, not confused, not inconsistent. His decisions come from clarity, not insecurity. Younger women pick up on this even subconsciously. They see how he chooses his battles. They notice how he doesn't waste energy on meaningless things. They observe how he doesn't chase trends, approval, or validation. He is anchored in who he is, and that creates a sense of direction that younger men often don't have yet. This man doesn't need to say, "I know what I want." You feel it in the way he moves. He's not in a hurry, but he's never stagnant. He's not impulsive, but he's decisive. He takes time to think, but he doesn't overthink. His certainty isn't about control, it's about awareness. A younger woman sees that he isn't trying to impress anyone, including her. And ironically, that makes him more attractive, because his life is not built around chasing attention. His life is built around growth. His purpose is bigger than romance, bigger than people's opinions, bigger than temporary desires. He is living for something beyond himself, and that kind of man becomes a natural leader, not through dominance, but through direction. Younger women admire that. They feel inspired by it, drawn to it, intrigued by it, not because it makes him superior, but because it makes him stable. A woman wants to align with a life, not just a moment. She wants a man whose decisions reflect wisdom, not confusion. A man who has thought deeply about his path, his values, his energy. And purpose is not just about career or success. It's about emotional direction. A man with purpose knows what kind of woman he wants, what kind of relationship he will build, and what kind of connection he will not tolerate. He doesn't entertain chaos. He doesn't romanticize dysfunction. He doesn't hold on to toxic patterns because he's afraid of being alone. His clarity allows him to choose wisely instead of reacting emotionally. This internal alignment is rare, and rare things stand out. The reason younger women choose older men isn't because of age itself. It's because with age, men who pay attention begin to understand themselves. They are no longer scared of who they are. They no longer need approval to feel valuable. They no longer rush toward love hoping it will fix something inside them. They bring completeness, not emptiness. A woman feels that difference. She feels when a man is chasing her because he lacks direction. She feels when a man wants her because she gives his life meaning, versus a man whose life already has meaning and wants her to share in it. One is a burden, the other is a blessing, and the truth is, purpose does something unique to a man's energy. It sharpens him. It protects him from neediness. It makes him selective, intentional, disciplined. A man with purpose doesn't chase every woman. He chooses one who aligns with his path. And because he is rooted, he attracts women who crave stability, clarity, and strength. That's the part people misunderstand. It's not that younger women prefer older men. It's that younger women prefer men who have evolved, men who don't get shaken by life, men who move with direction, men who lead themselves before ever leading anyone else. A man with purpose has depth in his eyes because he has lived deeply. He speaks with intention because he thinks before he speaks. He loves with maturity because he knows how fragile relationships can be. He doesn't confuse excitement with commitment. He doesn't mistake attention for connection. He understands what matters and he protects it. This kind of man becomes irreplaceable, not because he's perfect, but because he's clear. And clarity is a form of power most men never develop. A woman doesn't want a man who just exists. She wants a man who is going somewhere. Because life is long, love is demanding, and a directionless man is the most exhausting journey a woman can take. Purpose is the difference. Certainty is the difference. Direction is the difference. Become the man who knows where he's going, so she never doubts walking beside you. There's something profoundly different about a man who knows how to be present without applying pressure. Younger women can feel it the moment they interact with him. It's in the way he listens, the way he observes, the way he holds space without trying to dominate it. This presence has nothing to do with age, but age often teaches a man how to develop it. Most men lose control when emotions rise, when the woman expresses herself intensely, or when uncertainty appears in the conversation. But the older, evolved man doesn't run from emotional complexity. He steadies it. This kind of masculine presence is not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't take up space aggressively. Instead, it creates space. It gives room for the woman to breathe, to open up, to express herself without fearing judgment or misinterpretation. Younger women rarely encounter this in their age group because younger men often respond to emotion with ego. They either rush to fix it, get defensive, or shell. They take everything personally because they haven't yet learned the difference between someone's emotional expression and an attack on their worth. But the older man understands that emotions are not weapons. They are signals. They are expressions of inner turbulence, not accusations. So instead of reacting impulsively, he listens. He pays attention to what she means, not just what she says. He doesn't interrupt to correct her, impress her, or prove himself. He listens with the intent to understand, not respond. And in that understanding, she feels respected, valued, and emotionally safe. That safety is magnetic. Presence without pressure means that a man does not force a connection. He does not chase. He does not demand attention. He doesn't try to convince her to like him. He simply shows up as himself, calm, grounded, confident, and lets her decide if she wants to meet him at his level. This creates an entirely different energy dynamic. Instead of pushing, he attracts. Instead of persuading, he allows. Instead of pursuing aggressively, he invites naturally. And younger women are drawn to that because it creates a rare psychological comfort. When a man is present without being needy, she doesn't feel the weight of expectation on her shoulders. She doesn't feel she must perform, impress, or give in. She doesn't feel pressured to make quick decisions. She can take her time, she can be herself, she can move at her own emotional pace, and she knows he won't punish her for it. This makes her feel free, and that freedom makes him irresistible. Most men don't realize that pressure is the fastest way to push a woman away. When a man asks too many questions too soon, wants too much too fast, or tries to lock in commitment before trust has been built, he unintentionally suffocates the connection. But the man with mature presence gives the connection space to grow. He doesn't rush because he's not afraid of losing her. He doesn't cling because he knows his value. He doesn't demand certainty from her because he has certainty within himself. This is why women feel calm around him. His energy doesn't spike when she is emotional. It doesn't drop when she is confused. It stays steady. And this steadiness is what makes him stand out. A younger woman feels it instantly. The way she can express her fears without feeling judged, the way he can sit in silence without becoming uncomfortable, the way he handles disagreements with quiet logic instead of emotional chaos. Presence without pressure also means the older man knows how to communicate with maturity. He doesn't weaponize silence. He doesn't use emotional manipulation. He doesn't react from insecurity. He speaks clearly, directly, and honestly. He says what he means and means what he says. This kind of communication is powerful because it eliminates confusion. She doesn't have to guess what he's thinking. She doesn't have to wonder what he wants. His clarity eliminates her anxiety, and that creates trust. And once a woman trusts a man's presence, everything changes. She becomes softer. She opens up more. She leans into femininity more naturally. She feels emotionally held, not controlled, not pressured, not rushed. She feels seen. And that feeling seen is one of the most deeply attractive experiences a woman can have with a man. It makes her feel connected to him not just physically or emotionally, but spiritually. What the older man understands is this presence is power. He doesn't need to perform. He doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't need to chase. His energy does the work because it is anchored, grounded, and mature. And when a woman meets a man like that, she feels like she's found something rare. Something she didn't even know she was searching for. Young men often try to make an impression. Older, evolved men try to make a connection. Younger men want to be impressive. Older men want to be authentic. Younger men want attention. Older men want alignment. This is why the younger woman finds the older man more attractive. His presence carries depth, not desperation. His calmness carries confidence, not arrogance. His energy carries maturity, not pressure. And in a world full of noise, a man with quiet, intentional energy becomes unforgettable. Presence without pressure is not a strategy. It is the natural expression of a man who is emotionally complete. A man who doesn't see connection as something to capture, but something to nurture. A man who understands that the strongest relationships are built on freedom, not force. A younger woman recognizes this instantly, and she chooses the man who makes her feel safe, understood, and respected without ever feeling controlled. She chooses the man whose presence strengthens her, not the man whose insecurities drain her. Because in the end, attraction is not about who talks the loudest or who pushes the hardest. It's about who brings peace. Be the man whose presence calms her soul, because pressure destroys connection, but presence builds desire. There is something profoundly magnetic about a man who has mastered himself. Not a man who pretends to be strong, but a man who has walked through enough life to understand his own shadows. Younger women don't gravitate toward older men simply because they are older. They gravitate toward the depth that comes from survival, growth, and transformation. A man who has lived, learned, lost, rebuilt, and evolved begins to carry a kind of inner wisdom that cannot be imitated, no matter how hard someone tries. You see, younger women today are not searching for perfection. That illusion has faded. They are searching for emotional intelligence. Someone who understands life beyond the surface. Someone who can treat them with maturity instead of impulsiveness, with clarity instead of confusion, with intention instead of fear. And emotional intelligence comes from one place, experience integrated into growth. This kind of man has been through heartbreak. He has faced disappointment. He has made mistakes that forced him to wake up. He has encountered failure in ways that stripped away his pride and rebuilt his humility. He has learned how to control himself, not because he's trying to impress anyone, but because he respects the man he has become. He has lived long enough to separate momentary emotions from permanent decisions. And that experience becomes the root of his wisdom. A younger woman senses this. She can feel the difference between a man who has no control over his impulses and a man who has mastered his inner world. She can feel the difference between someone who reacts and someone who responds. between someone who takes everything personally and someone who listens with awareness, between someone who wants attention and someone who values connection. Wisdom is not about age, it's about reflection. It's the ability to take pain and turn it into perspective, to take heartbreak and turn it into compassion, to take failure and turn it into strength. The older man who gets chosen is not the one who simply lived many years. He is the one who learned from them, and that learning shows in everything he does. He doesn't lose himself in arguments because he knows that words spoken from ego create wounds that last longer than the moment. He doesn't try to control a woman's emotions because he knows they are not a threat. They are an expression. He doesn't rush commitment because he understands that real connection grows slowly and naturally. He doesn't break under pressure because he has already faced storms that shaped him into something unshakable. Younger women respect this kind of man because he brings something they rarely experience in their generation: emotional maturity. A man who doesn't use love as a game. A man who doesn't weaponize silence. A man who doesn't punish mistakes but communicates with clarity. A man who doesn't make her feel like she must fight for peace. He becomes a safe space, not because he is weak, but because he is strong enough not to be threatened by emotion, independence, or vulnerability. His strength doesn't come from dominance. It comes from self-mastery. And that kind of strength is rare. Life has taught him lessons younger men usually haven't faced yet. He has discovered the value of patience. He knows when to let go and when to hold on. He knows that controlling someone never creates loyalty. He knows that ego destroys relationships faster than anything else. He knows the difference between solitude and loneliness. And more importantly, he knows how to love without losing himself. This emotional intelligence allows him to show up differently. He doesn't love with desperation, he loves with direction. He doesn't give affection for validation, he gives it because he feels secure. He doesn't fall apart when challenges appear, he works through them with stability and logic. He doesn't expect a woman to fix him, he has already done the work. Younger women feel this difference at a soul level. They feel the maturity in his conversations. They feel the steadiness in his energy. They feel the depth in his silence. They feel the wisdom behind his choices. And that depth is intoxicating. Because this man doesn't love by accident. He loves with awareness. He knows what he wants and what he values. He knows how to protect a relationship without suffocating it. He knows how to lead without controlling. He knows how to communicate without arguing. He knows how to listen without feeling threatened. He knows how to guide without forcing. He knows himself, so he can understand her. And this is why younger women choose him, not for his age, but for his evolution, not for his stability, but for his self-respect, not for his maturity, but for his understanding. In him, she finds a man who can hold her heart without shaking, who can handle her emotions without collapsing, who can offer a partnership that feels mature rather than chaotic. Most importantly, she knows that this man has already faced his demons, and he didn't run. He transformed. And that transformation has shaped him into someone who can love with depth, presence, and emotional intelligence. He becomes the rare kind of man who doesn't break under pressure. He becomes stronger because of it. A younger woman doesn't want a perfect man. She wants a man who has grown. Because in the end, growth is more attractive than youth, wisdom is more attractive than charm, and self-mastery is more attractive than temporary confidence. Become the man who turns his pain into wisdom, his mistakes into maturity, and his experiences into strength. Because a woman will always choose the man who has mastered himself over the man who is still running from himself.